Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the House of Bloodstein, Perlamum, Chapter 17, Rundlepharge, and surprise, we will also be reading Chapter 18, Wilhella's List, as both of these chapters are fairly short. In our last chapter, the gang returned to the ruins of Castle Bloodstein and confronted Lady Chrysania, whom they believed might not have been entirely truthful in her story about her Perlamum tournament. And in fact, she did confirm that she was not wholly truthful with them, that she embellished her story to make it sound a little more heroic than what it actually is. She said that she was actually the half-sister of Rothabah of George, and they both came of a illicit encounter at an Endurocon ball with her father and Stixa of Bergen. Endurocon balls are lots of fun. They're a ball that has no set end, and theoretically they can last forever, and in fact some do last for a long time, sometimes going into the years. Just imagine that, a party that never ends. But that would be messy and expensive, but they do happen in the league. And during an Endurocon ball, her father hooked up with Stixa Bergen, a Zaffin. And Zaffins really aren't supposed to be hanging out in the league, but I guess they do it just as a fad to see if they can not get caught. If they do get caught, there really aren't a whole lot of ramifications. They might spend time in someone's dungeon or in jail, but usually they'll just be sent back to Zaffin space, sometimes with a exchange of goods and money, but that's about it. Nobody's gonna hurt them. It's not quite the other way. If a leaguer gets caught in Zaffin space, depending on who catches them, they could be in for some tough sledding. And thus, mollified by her adjusted story, they decided to return back to Castle Blanchefort and once again consult with the professor to confirm her adjusted story, just to make sure that it is all good. They certainly want to believe women, but they gotta make sure they're putting their lives on the line in this quest to recover these Perlamum pieces. They want to make sure everything is legit. Let's begin, shall we? Chapter 17, Rundlepharge. They piled into the ripcar and headed west across the mountains. The four of them were torn. What to do? Should they continue to assist Lady Chrysania, or should they abandon her? Could she be trusted? Perhaps she was so desperate to escape the horrors of her own body, she would try anything, or say or do anything. They certainly pitied her, but could they trust her retold tale? Would that Captain Davidge and Countess Sigillis were available for counsel? Certainly they would know how to proceed. In their absence, it was best to update the professor and seek his guidance. They landed the ripcar at Castle Blanchefort and shared all that had been discussed with Kai and the professor in his smoky, hissing receiving room high atop Pendar Tower. He listened and smiled and said nothing. They awaited a response of some kind. Magistrate Kylos was there on the floor, playing with her son. "Okay, you really piss me off when you do this," she said. "Either say something or go downstairs and get us lunch." The professor snickered. He turned to his terminal and called up a blank file. He typed up a header for the file. Rundlepharge, 12. Sarah watched him type. "What's a Rundlepharge?" she asked. He responded, "Sarah, you often like to speculate as to whether or not I belong to the Hertogs, yes? One of the things Hertogs are said to engage in is the collecting of Rundlepharges, and discuss them over tea. It's no different than collecting butterflies or rocks or anything else that requires diligence and patience and slow acquisition. Rundlepharges are difficult to track and possibly dangerous, but ultimately very rewarding. I believe, given what you've told me, and from my own research, that Lady Chrysania of Bloodstein, or Rothabah of George, or possibly both, are Rundlepharges. I am going to track them to determine if that's the case." "You still haven't told us what a Rundlepharge is," Sarah said. The professor considered his response. It's a person who has lived a unique life, to put it mildly. I performed research while you were gone. First thing I notice is I cannot determine how old Lady Chrysania is. I cannot find a specific birth date or place of birth, though the name Chrysania keeps popping in and out of Bloodstein history. This lack of information may or may not be significant. The Bloodsteins tend to be rather secretive in their files, and having off-worlded Cana several centuries ago to their remote planet, access to their personal data is limited. What does that mean? Kay asked. The professor tapped his chin. I wonder, may I ask a favor of one or two of you? Kai knew her husband well. Oh no. Whenever you want a favor done, it usually requires a lot of legwork. No, this won't take but a short bit of time. No more than an hour. Philip volunteered. We can do it, Professor. Thomasina and I will go. The professor was elated. Brilliant! With Madame Thomasina, you'll be back in no time. He typed into his terminal and a slip of paper printed. He handed the paper to Philip. Go here and inspect the area. Report me back what you find. Philip read the paper and was puzzled. Should we be looking for anything in particular? No. Just tell me what you find. King, can you come with us, please? Philip asked. It'll make the searching easier. King hopped off his perch and went out to the terrace, hovering, waiting for them to follow. Tweeter, always eager to please King, went out with him, the two of them like a pair of silver candle flashes in the sun. Hey, Tweets, where are you going? Kai asked. Philip and Thomasina went out into the terrace. After a moment, gripping him securely around the waist, Thomasina took flight, and the four of them soared away to the south. Tweets just loves King, Kai commented. Where are they going? Sam asked, concerned. Should we go with them? No, just a short trip into the Talmus Grove. I've a hunch, and I need to know if I am correct. They'll be back shortly. Kai shook her head. You and your little trips. As long as I'm around, you're not going to be running roughshod over these people. I think of them as our family. If you've got a hunch about something, get out there and check on it yourself. And I'm not going to have our son seeing his father being an unathletic terminal jockey, making everybody else do things for him. It's always worked well in the past. Yeah, well, whatever. I'm going to have to throw you out of here at some point and lock the door, aren't I? And when our son gets older, I better not see you ordering him around all over the place. Reproached, the professor continued. As I was saying, I cannot confirm Lady Chrysania's existence. Obviously, she's real. She's inhabiting the ruin of Castle Bloodstein and so on. What about her E degree she says she's earned? Kay asked. I can find no evidence of a Lady Chrysania Bloodstein attending any university here on Cana. However, she might have attended using an alias. That's not as uncommon as you might think. I've located any number of people whose records would make them appear to be aliases. One of those might be her. You might ask why she would veil herself in an alias. The answer is the sisters. People with bizarre medical maladies pop up from time to time all over the League, and the sisters always take an interest in these unfortunate cases. They like to present the appearance that the genetic engineering the elders put to us ages ago is perfectly sound and defect-free. However, people are born with terrible deformities at a fairly regular rate, and the sisters always make these unfortunate people vanish. If they were aware of Lady Chrysania's situation, she would certainly be in their custody at this time. Therefore, for self-preservation, she would be wise to escape their notice and make use of an alias. Sam spoke. Well, I for one do pity her, and she is certainly very sick and is in my prayers. My question, and I demand it be answered, can she be trusted? Has she lied to us again? Why is she looking to everybody else to solve her problems and not her own house? The professor replied. The Bloodstein's resources are somewhat strapped. They are engaged in an ongoing shooting war with Ming Moreland pirates ranging through the Bell Nebula. Where I come from, we keep to ourselves, Sam said. When one of our sister tribes falls into hardship, it is dependent upon them to correct the matter. That might sound harsh, but that's how we handle things. Kai laughed and shook her head. Oh boy, Sam, you might have married into the wrong household. No, Kai, I'm where I need to be. I understand the Vith handle things differently, and I must get used to that. However, I will not allow my husband or my beloved cousin-in-law Sarah to be misled a second time. Sarah jumped in. Well, Sam, I appreciate that, but we're on the trail of something here, and you're not going to stop me if I want to see it through. Care to watch me? Sam said in a somewhat dangerous voice. The professor continued, diffusing an argument that was ready to happen. Obviously, Lady Cressania is after something, presumably the restoration of her senses. Who wouldn't want such a thing? Who wouldn't want to see and hear and take a breath? The question is, how far is she willing to go to achieve that restoration? Sam asked. Who is she willing to sacrifice for it? And for what? To receive an invitation to a Shadowtech restaurant in Wham, run by an insane black hat? What good will that do? Wilhella Corman Grand is noted for her skill with Shadowtech. Her ability to perform near miraculous feats is confirmed. I believe she could assist Lady Cressania to some degree in the short term, but whether or not the fix would be good going forward is unknown. Sam crossed her arms. I don't know. She engaged the Wunderlucks prior to our involvement. Why not allow them to see it through? No way, Sam, Sarah protested. Sarah, set your pride aside. If there is treachery ahead, let the Wunderlucks endure it. The professor smiled. Yes, the Wunderlucks. I hate to break this to you, Countess, but our involvement in this matter might be more critical than you understand. You said Lady Cressania had entered into a Gelitis contract with the Wunderlucks. If the Wunderlucks successfully complete the agreed-upon task, in this case the collection of Wilhella's Perlamum pieces, then they are entitled to the deed to Castle Bloodstein. Lady Cressania, in her desperation, made a poor business decision. The castle is a ruin. Let the Wunderlucks have it. Kay spoke up. It's not just the castle, Sam. The professor continued. Lord Blanchefort is correct. The import is actually quite huge. The deed does not simply consist of a crumbling castle in the middle of nowhere. It covers a substantial parcel of land around the castle in North Vithland. The landscape of Vithland was created at the Conference of Valenhelm in 2AX, after the Great Betrayal. With all these Vith households leaving the League to become Zaphins, their holdings were declared null by the Sisters and redistributed. Much of the northern lands to the coast were given to the Bloodsteins, as they were well favored amongst the Sisters. In 345 AX, the Bloodsteins left Cana in favor of newly terraformed planet Bloodstein, and the bulk of their holdings were amicably redistributed amongst the various Vith households. There was no official involvement from the Sisters, it was simply a gentleman's agreement between the houses. Given that, if the Wunderlucks, a renegade Remnath household hoping to make a splash and ruffle feathers, gained possession of the Bloodstein's holdings, then they could go before the League X Commons and demand the return of the lands given away in 345 AX. That could destabilize the landscape of Cana. There could be bloodshed. There could be war. Sam gritted her teeth and covered her eyes with her hands. I'll wager she did that on purpose, she whispered, to force us to help her. So I'm certain you'll agree it's in no one's interest to see the Wunderlucks succeed. Sarah was like a volcano ready to explode. She pointed at Kay. You're being too quiet here, Kay, and you're letting Sam dictate how this is gonna go. Sam, I love you. I wouldn't have anyone else for Kay. But you chose to marry into a Vith house, and the Vith don't run from a challenge, right? She awaited his answer. Kay thought for a moment. Sam laced her fingers in with his. He spoke. I'll be blunt, Sam. You are my beloved wife, and I value and respect your opinion. But Sarah is correct. We are Vith. I have a duty to provide a safe household for you and our future children, and for Sarah and Phillips, and my brothers and sisters as well. The duty of the Lord of Blanchefort is to see the broad picture and not shirk from a challenge when the house falls into jeopardy. Yes, we have been misled. Yes, we could be treading in dangerous waters, but I have our legacy to consider, and my duty to my Vith brethren. Perhaps, as you said, Lady Cressania brought the Wunderlucks into this and intentionally made the stakes high to ensure action be taken on her part. Perhaps she has acted out of desperation, or perhaps she is insane. Nevertheless, the die has been cast, and we cannot allow Vithland to fall into ruin and bloodshed. Kay turned to the professor. Professor, I also believe you are eager to see this mystery through to the end. Am I correct? You wish to gather data on your Rundlepharge, yes? Of course you are correct, for a number of reasons. One, Blanchefort, and Cana for that matter, is our home now, and I would not see it thrown into chaos. Second, like you, do not savor the possibility of a bully house like the Wunderlucks achieving any sort of success. And three, I would like to see what comes of this. I believe, should the proper precautions be taken, the risks will be minimal. You mean using the machine? Sam asked. Indeed. Philip and Thomasina returned. They landed on the terrace like a giant four-legged bird. They stepped inside. Thomasina's hair was bushy from the wind. King flew in a moment later, followed shortly thereafter by Tweeter. "Don't go running off, Tweets, okay?" Kai said. King found a good spot to perch while Tweeter continued to harass him, fluttering about his face, pecking him on the bill. Dourly, King endured it. "You're back!" Sarah cried. "That was fast." "We inspected the coordinates. They took us to a drainage area at the base of Dead Hill," Philip said. The professor was eager for information. "And what did you find there?" After some searching about, King found a small tunnel covered with overgrowth. It was just big enough to crawl through on your belly. I'd never seen that particular tunnel before. Countess Sigillis is very knowledgeable about tunnels in the Grove, but she never mentioned anything about a tunnel near Dead Hill. King went in, and I followed with my sight. The tunnel went up sharply and dead-ended in a smooth rectangular space about 2 feet wide, 4 feet high, and 7 feet long. "What was inside the rectangular space?" the professor asked. "Nothing. There was nothing, just smooth stone." The professor smiled and added some notes to his Rundlepharge file. And with that, we conclude Chapter 17, Rundlepharge. We will continue on to Chapter 18, Wilhella's List. A quick note, a Rundlepharge, as the professor stated, is a code name for a unique individual. Could be in the League, could be in Zaffin space, someone who's not living ordinary life. There's lots of different names for these unusual people. Rundlepharge is what the Hertogs call them, but other people call them cyberlings, or people who may or may not actually exist. People who have bank accounts and friends, who have graduated from schools, who have been noted to go here and go there, spend money, take lovers, but nevertheless are elusive and never actually seen by anybody, just heard about. Those are called cyberlings, or people with a definite paper trail that they exist, but nobody can actually confirm ever seeing these people or ever speaking to them. Even people who consider themselves close friends of these cyberlings, I've never actually seen this person. I've just spoken to them over a scratchy comm link. And Rothaba of George in particular is suspected to be a cyberling, especially by her biographer, usually notorious people in society. Marist, and a Marist is just a name for a high-placed lady in Zaffin society. Have people writing their, stories about writing their exploits. And Rothaba's biographer, and, even though I made her up, but her name is escaping me at this present time, wrote that she never actually had seen Rothaba. She'd heard that she was here, she was there, blah, 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 and that she had done this and that, and it was outrageous, and she wrote about it, but she never actually laid eyes on her, never actually spoke to her. Rothaba may or may not, according to the scuttlebutt in Zaffin society, exist. So with that to ponder, we continue on to Chapter 18, Wilhella's List. Oh, one final note, this little quest that the professor sent Philip and Thomasina on, it might be a little confusing and nebulous at this time. It will make sense later on and will not be super important, but it's actually pertinent to the story. Whatever it was they researched just now will make sense in future chapters. Let's proceed. Chapter 18, Wilhella's List. Sam was annoyed. "So let me fill you in on what was discussed while you were gone. It seems, through some sort of legal wrangling, that we have no choice but to assist Lady Chrysania, though I really wanted nothing further to do with the matter and made my case for it." Philip and Thomasina seated themselves. "What legal wrangling?" Thomasina asked. "The Gelitis," Kay said. "If the Wunderlucks succeed in collecting all the pieces, then they will own Castle Bloodstein and its lands." Philip explained to Thomasina what that meant in full. She scowled. "She did that on purpose." "That's what I said," Sam added. "So, in order to thwart the Wunderlucks, we shall proceed, though the issue remains at hand. We do not know where the pieces are, and the first is located in, as far as I'm concerned, an unreachable place." "And Countess, while you were visiting Lady Chrysania, I made significant progress in that area," the professor said. "I managed to crack Wilhella's code and now know the current location of most of the pieces." "Well, where are they?" Sarah cried. The professor referred to his cone. Her list is actually quite amazing. I'm impressed with Wilhella's level of technology. How so? Sarah asked. Look at the list. See for yourself. Look at the left bishop listing. Left bishop. Entrusted to Domino of Xandar. Number 6 of the Xandar 44. Hidden in God's Temple. Valley of the Moons. Xandar. Status. Taken. Trustees. Lord Cable of Blanchefort. Sarah of Blanchefort. Philip of Blanchefort. Nee Countess Samadoran of Blanchefort. Madame Thomasina 19th of Wham. Poor Tator of Ald. Current location, Pendar Tower, Castle Blanchefort, 100th floor receiving room. Sarah gawked at the list in awe. Really? It's staying current no matter what we do? It is, the professor said. As I said, quite impressive. How's she doing that? Shadowtech. Despite her outrageous behavior, Wilhella Corman Grand is quite impressive in molding the arcane into technical reality. Sarah was interested. Philip, would you take the piece into the next room? She asked, holding out the box. I want to see the list change. Thomasina stood up and took the box. Here, let me. She stepped out of her sandals and padded out of the room, long brown hair bobbing. She stepped out onto the terrace and soared away, flying to the north like a green and brown seraph. Sarah watched the display. It read, Current location, Blanchefort Province, elevation 4,025 feet, bearing north by east, 22 knots. Sarah was open-mouthed in admiration as Thomasina stepped back onto the terrace a minute later with the box, the wind picking her hair up in a graceful fashion. She returned to the room, recovered her sandals, and resumed her seat next to Philip. Seriously, that is a cool whammock, isn't it? Now we can grab them all, starting with the easy stuff, Sarah said. We'll worry about the bloody jester later. Sam spoke up. I will insist that we confine our efforts to the pieces on Lady Chrysania's list, and any pieces the Wunderlucks have managed to collect, if any. The professor laughed. Well then, Nee Countess, you're going to be disappointed. Please attend. They looked at the expanded list and were shocked. Jester, NXY477A, Edam. King, Taken. Scrib Tiffin. Current location, Shook Manor. Lower gastrointestinal tract, Celeb Denethor. Queen, Taken. Scrib Tiffin. Current location, south of Shook Manor, in Weeds. Left Rook, Taken. Clara Wunderluck. Current location, Jokanda Monastery, dining area. Right Rook, Taken. Clara Wunderluck. Current location, Jokanda Monastery, dining area. Left Knight, Taken. Rusty Wunderluck. Current location, Jokanda Monastery, dining area. Right Knight, Taken. Aiken Wunderluck. Current location, Jokanda Monastery, dining area. Right Bishop, Taken. Aiken Wunderluck. Current location, Jokanda Monastery, dining area. Missive, Taken. Scrib Tiffin. Current location, Shook Manor, in Plumbing, 9.7 meters from Cistern. Pawns, set. Taken. Scrib Tiffin. Current location, Shook Manor, swimming pool, depth 3.5 meters. Sam stared at the list in open-mouthed shock and frustration. Sarah was enraged. How, in the name of creation, did that Shocktite Shook and those idiot Wunderluck Joe-boys get a hold of all the pieces? How the hell? I told you, Shook gets results, Thomasina said. Sarah stared at the list and was aghast. Look at this! The ponds are located at the bottom of Shook's swimming pool. Looks to be the deep end. The missive is in his plumbing. The queen is in the weeds south of his manor, and the king is in somebody's colon. Is that correct? How in creation did it get there? The professor laughed. Clearly somebody ate it. Ate it? I'll wager somebody stuffed it up there, Sarah countered. That is another possibility, the professor agreed. Thomasina spoke up. Shook and those he surrounds himself with are people of vice and decadence. Really is quite shameless. No doubt some drunken fool in his court ate the piece in a perverse demonstration of mind and body control. I am going to establish a woolover fragment on Conwell and clean Shook up once and for all. Philip, you're going to assist me, correct? Of course, he said, somewhat dubious. When is this going to happen? Immediately. Sarah was still transfixed by the notion of a Perlamum piece up somebody's colon. Good luck pooping that out, boyo. Laxatives can work wonders, Philip said, tired of the topic. So, apparently Shook and the Wunderlucks secured a copy of the instructions. The Wunderlucks have the matched pieces in Jocanda Monastery. The professor spoke. I've heard, via my Zaffin contacts, that the Wunderlucks ran short of funds. Apparently Shook is keeping the more impressive pieces for himself as collateral until the Wunderlucks pay up. Where is Jocanda Monastery? The professor answered. West of Wiln, in the Remnath Hills. Kay stood. Then I suggest we do it before the Wunderlucks happen onto a windfall of cash. Sarah was ready. All right, that's what I hoped you'd say. So how are we going to do it? We have the machine. Sam stood. Before we proceed, I want it made clear that I went to my grave protecting the machine's secrets from not only bully households here on Cana, but from the gods as well. How will we protect the machine from detection going forward? Sarah spoke. We got that covered. Sam, our mother has several bell towers autopiled with her Silvertech familiars. We'll get a whole bunch of whispers and take them out to the grove. The whispers will cloak us, sight and sound. Not even Kay with his dark sight can see through more than a few of them. We'll bring 100 with us. Nothing will see or hear through that. And they're password protected so nobody can hack their way in. Also, we'll bring a few barks with us. Barks are tireless sentinels, and they can detect invisible or otherwise cloaked intruders. We also have the KMX net enabled, Kay said. If the High-Tath or anybody else comes into the grove, our controllers here in the castle will know it. Right, Sarah cried. We've got whispers, barks, and KMX. We've also got Silvertech defenses my mother placed around it. The big tree, remember? Nobody is going to detect the machine. Sam thought about it and nodded. All right, I'm satisfied. Let's make our preparations. Kay stood and handed her son to the professor. I'm game. I didn't appreciate those losers fouling up my bar. Where's your thing, hun? The professor bounced Sebastian on his knee. I promised I'd make the device available and we should use it to full effect. Go to my archives down on the 92nd floor. In shelf location AA47, you shall find the device I've been mentioning. Use it in conjunction with the Oberphiliacs and you shall have success. Please make sure it is properly returned when you are finished. I am quite particular about my things. Yeah, don't worry about it, Kai said. Hey, Sebastian's going to need changing in a bit. It's your turn. Come on, you lot, let's go. None of us are getting any younger. Tweets! Tweeter came down and landed on her shoulder. King, Sarah said. King came down, fluttering in midair. Let's go, she said. And with that, we conclude Chapter 18, Wilhella's List. And as we see, we've been mentioning that Scrib Tiffin, poor Tator of Shook, despite his arcane ability to cheat death, is a competent man. He actually can get results. And apparently, he got from somewhere a copy of Wilhella's List, probably from a Zaffin warlord or someone who had tried to get the pieces earlier, and was able to secure pretty much all of them. Except for the Jester, which is around the ring and mare with the dead bodies, the one that they have in their possession that they got from number 6. So the Wunderlucks pretty much have everything they need. The Wunderlucks are always cash-strapped, and apparently they ran out of money. So Shook is keeping the bigger pieces, the king, queen, missive, and the pawns for himself until they pay up. And they're just laying around his property in the weeds, in the plumbing, in the pool, and up somebody's butt. I always thought that was a funny touch. I must have been watching Jackass or something when I wrote it. But so that's where everything is. Next chapter, the gang goes to set up their arcane instrumentality so they can try to get these pieces away from the Wunderlucks and from Shook, and we'll see how that shakes out. Apparently, all the pieces that the Wunderlucks have, all the matched pieces except for the one that they have, are sitting in their dining room on a mantle. So, next chapter, Jocanda Monastery, and that's where the Wunderlucks hang out. We'll see how this piece collection goes and what becomes of it. So, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.